And he comes in and calls it. He's the only guy that came into Utah when I was a young player and said, I think I'm going to have 43 tonight. Told our whole team that on the bench, and he came in and had 43 tonight.
First play of the game, he says, I don't know where they got you guarding me, Holmes. And he shoots a 3. I was pissed.
And that's just a veteran knowing how he can play. Wow. You know what I'm saying, and what he can do. He knew that I was smaller than him. He can shoot over me, and he can create space.
In the 1982 to 1983 season, a flashy rookie by the name of Dominique Wilkins was getting his first taste of the league. That was until he met Larry Bird. Dominique Wilkins didn't even have his name yet in the NBA, and Larry Bird made sure to remind him. It was Wilkins' rookie season, and the Hawks were facing the Celtics. First play of the game, and he already was matched up with Larry, and from then on, Larry had to give him a welcome fit for a rookie.
First time I played against him. Yeah, I'm a rookie. I'm glad to be in the league. I'm in the Boston Garden, and I'm guarding him, right? First play of the game, he said, I don't know why you got you guarding me, Holmes. I was like, huh? He shoots a 3. And I wasn't mad he made the 3. I said, but this called me Holmes. And so the next play, I'm pissed. So he comes out, he shifts to his right, and I jump. I said, I got him. And I'm pumping it by my head, and I banged it on him, right? And he on the ground, he fouled me, and I'm pointing. And he said, hey, Rook. I'm like, what? He said, I like you. You got balls. He said, I'm still getting 30 on you today. He got about 37. Yeah. But I wasn't mad because I'm paying my dues. That's Larry. Right.
Larry went on to drop 30 on Wilkins' head that night, marking the beginning of what was to become a fierce rivalry between the two forwards. Dominique Wilkins never forgot that moment because it wasn't just a shot, it was a message. Larry Bird didn't care who you were, how athletic you looked, or how high your ceiling was. If you were a younger player lining up across from him, you were fair game. And Bird made it his personal mission to humble every single one of them. Throughout the 80s and early 90s, a new generation of NBA stars began flooding the league. Explosive scorers, high flyers, elite defenders. But when they ran into Bird, they got hit with something completely different and were near helpless because they all had to go through Bird first. And time after time, it didn't matter how explosive you were or how badly you wanted it. Bird found a way to slice through your pride with a mix of cold-blooded skill, subtle trash talk, and almost eerie composure. Whether it was trash talk, impossible shots, or just pure execution, Bird reminded the next generation that respect had to be earned in this league. Charles Barkley came into the league with power, swagger, and one of the biggest personalities the NBA had ever seen. But even all that confidence didn't prepare him for Larry Bird. By 1989, Charles Barkley was already a rising star in the league. He was the Sixers franchise player, putting up monster numbers and becoming one of the most dominant forwards in the game. But even then, Larry Bird was on a different level. Late in a tight game between Boston and Philadelphia, the score was tied, and the Celtics had the final possession. Everyone in the building knew where the ball was going. Straight to Larry. While Barkley tried his all to deny Larry the ball, his attempt was futile. Barkley got greedy and tried diving for the ball, but little did he know, Larry always got his way, hitting a clean turnaround shot to ice the game and seal the win. Barkley stood there in disbelief, going as far as to say, I thought I had him. He couldn't have defended it much better, but Bird didn't need space. Just a sliver of daylight and a chance to silence the crowd. That shot wasn't just a clutch moment. It was a reminder. Even as the league evolved and younger stars emerged, Larry Bird still had the last word. In 1984, John Stockton entered the league as a quiet, overlooked rookie out of Gonzaga. No fanfare, No hype, just a kid trying to find his place in a league full of giants. And early in that rookie season, he found himself in Boston Garden, staring down the guy every rookie eventually had to face, Larry Bird. Before the game even tipped off, Bird strolled past the Utah bench like he owned the building. Because, honestly, he did. He locked eyes with Jazz coach Frank Layden and casually dropped the line, "I'm going to score 40 on your boy tonight." Layden laughed it off, thinking Bird was just playing around. But Bird wasn't smiling. He pointed right at Stockton, the rookie guard who had the unlucky assignment of guarding him. Once the game started, it was like Bird had a personal checklist. He hunted Stockton down, and every time he scored, he'd look back at the bench and the coaching staff and made sure they were watching.
I wasn't around Larry as much. I sure saw it. Even as a rookie, I came in. He walked into the gym and said, "Coach, I think told our whole team, but to our coach, I think I'm going to have 42."
How many do you have?
He had 42 and then checked himself out of the game.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty impressionable for a young player.
So he walks into the Utah Jazz and just says to Coach Sloan, "I think I'm going to put up 42?
It was actually Frank Layden at the time.
Oh, Frank Layden at the
did.
time. Oh, my God.
Yeah, and he did it. That's the kind of the amazing part.
Bird never said anything?
Well, he did, but not to me. I remember as a rookie, he came in, he walked by our bench at the Salt Palace and said, "I feel like 43 tonight." And he came out, he scored 43 in the third quarter and checked himself out with a 20-point victory, and I was fairly impressed with that one.
Stockton, who had prided himself on toughness and fundamentals, couldn't do much but chase shadows. Bird wasn't just scoring, he was controlling everything. The pace, the flow, even the morale. And then, just as casually as he'd promised 40, he delivered. Bird walked over to the Celtics bench, subbed himself out, and sat down. Mission accomplished. That moment stuck with Stockton for the rest of his career. It wasn't just the 40 points, it was the swagger, the control, and the sheer confidence to say what he'd do, and then do it without breaking a sweat. It was Stockton's first taste of Larry Legend, and like most rookies who crossed his path, he never forgot it. Shawn Kemp came into the league brimming with confidence. At 6'10", with freakish athleticism and an intimidating presence, he wasn't used to getting humbled. But that changed fast, the first time he matched up against Larry Bird. Heading into the game, Kemp was cocky, and who could blame him? He was a highlight reel waiting to happen, dunking on veterans, sprinting the floor, dominating on athleticism alone. But against Larry Bird, things were different. During warm-ups, Bird glanced at him, shook his head, and simply said it was going to be a hard night. Kemp thought he was joking. He wasn't.
This was my first year.
Oh, okay.
And that day, that morning they came out with a USA Today article, and it said that Larry didn't have it no more. So he came out that night to make a statement, and I was just the prime candidate to be Before the game, he told me, he was like, he just shook his head at me. He said, "Man, it's going to be a night for you."
So what did he put up?
I think he gave me 46 and 3.
What'd you do?
Man, I had to find out, but I was on his ass. I'm going to tell y'all this, man.
Bird gave him 40. It wasn't loud or flashy, it was surgical. Bird picked Kemp apart slowly. Post-ups, mid-range jumpers, perfect footwork, and flawless timing. Kemp tried to use his athleticism, but Bird didn't bite. He'd bait him with fakes, keep him off balance, and hit shot after shot. Always in control, always one move ahead. Kemp admitted later that Bird taught him a lesson that night. Not just about humility, but about what real greatness looks like. This wasn't a highlight dunk. It was a masterclass. That night, the rookie fire met veteran precision, and Bird made sure Kemp never forgot it. Years earlier, another confident rookie had his own welcome to the league moment. Before Eddie Johnson became a respected veteran and longtime scorer in the NBA, he was just a wide-eyed rookie in 1981, trying to prove himself on a rebuilding Kansas City Kings squad. Coming out of Illinois, Johnson was confident, athletic, and hungry. He'd matched up with great players in college, but nothing could prepare him for Larry Bird, who by then was already carving out his legend with the Celtics. Bird had just come off a Rookie of the Year campaign and was leading Boston back to dominance. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but you felt his presence immediately. Eddie Johnson found that out the hard way.
And I remember playing against Larry Bird my second year. He was always talking so much trash to me. Bird walks out at the jump, and the veterans on my team said, Eddie, just don't pay attention to him. Fine. So I minded my own business on the jump, and he walks out, and he just stands next to me, and he leans over and he looks at me. And I didn't pay him any attention. He said, do you honestly think you're going to guard me? Cursed at me. Like, what? I just didn't say nothing. Then he stands up and he looks over at our bench and he looks at Clyde. You all think this rookie going to guard me? Man, I'm going to bust you up, just right in my ear.
As the two lined up for the opening jump ball, Bird casually strolled over, looked him dead in the eyes, and said, "You really think you can guard me?" That was all it took. The message wasn't loud, it was surgical. Bird didn't have to flex. His confidence was so precise, it threw Johnson off before the game even started. And once the ball was in play, Bird made good on the threat. He picked his spots, dissected the defense, and ran Johnson through screen after screen, forcing him to react to a player already 3 steps ahead. That moment stuck with Johnson for years, not just because Bird dominated him, but because it exposed a gap in experience, skill, and sheer psychological control. Larry didn't just beat rookies physically, he owned them mentally too, which is why when Clyde Drexler entered the NBA in 1983, he was full of confidence. Fresh out of the University of Houston's high-flying Phi Slamma Jamma squad, he had the athleticism and swagger to match. But none of that mattered the first time he had to guard Larry Bird. In Drexler's rookie year, the Trailblazers faced the Celtics, and Drexler drew the unfortunate assignment of checking Bird. The moment he stepped on the court, Bird made it clear how this matchup was going to go. He looked Drexler dead in the eye and told him straight up, "You can't stop me." Bird didn't have to repeat it.
I was guarding in my rookie year. He looked at me and he goes, "You can't stop me." And I looked at him and I said, "Gosh, boy, you're so confident." He goes, "Confident? You're a rookie. You don't know anything." He proceeded to score like 10 straight points on me. The coach took me out the game. He walks by and he's laughing at me.
Over the next few minutes, he backed up every word. 10 straight points. No wasted motion. Pull-up after pull-up. A post-up fadeaway. A cut to the rim off the ball. All Drexler could do was watch and chase. There was no stopping Bird because Bird already knew exactly what he wanted to do and how to do it. This wasn't just a hot stretch, it was a statement. Bird wasn't just testing Drexler, he was schooling him, letting him know that in the NBA, experience and mastery could override athleticism and energy. For Drexler, it was an early reality check. He would go on to have a Hall of Fame career of his own, but that night, Bird showed him what it meant to control the game. Not with flash, but with pure, unshakable skill. And for every rising star in the 80s, that was the nightmare. Larry Bird, calling his shots and making sure you remembered them. Even the best defenders of that era had no chance in their early years to disrupt Bird and his dominance on the court. Before Gary Payton was the glove, he was a young guard trying to make a name for himself, already confident, already talking, already defending with tenacity. But one of his early encounters with Larry Bird left a mark. Not because Peyton didn't bring the effort, but because Bird dismantled it with calm, surgical precision. During one of their matchups early in Peyton's career, Bird started the game by announcing his plan. "I'm gonna get the ball right there," he said, pointing to a spot on the floor. "Then, I'm gonna shoot it right in your face." And that's exactly what he did. Possession after possession, Bird would tell Peyton where he was going, how the play would unfold, and when the shot would go up. And with Peyton draped all over him, Bird calmly buried jumper after jumper. No hesitation, no dribbles wasted, just pure, effortless execution. What stunned Peyton most wasn't just the accuracy, it was the inevitability. It didn't matter how close he played, how well he moved his feet, or how intense his defense was. Bird had already decided how the play would end. He wasn't reacting to Peyton, Peyton was reacting to him. And that's what separated Bird from everyone else. He wasn't just physically gifted, he had total command of the game's rhythm, timing, and psychology. He could read your stance, your momentum, your confidence, and flip it all against you. Gary Payton, the man who prided himself on getting into players' heads, left that game realizing Bird had done it to him. Bird had talked the talk, walked the walk, and made one of the league's future greatest defenders feel like he never stood a chance. Larry Bird didn't need to be the most athletic guy on the court to make a lasting impression. What separated him was his control of the game, his ability to think 3 steps ahead, hit the right shots at the right time, and use his experience to outplay younger opponents who were still figuring things out. For a lot of rising stars in the league, playing against Bird early in their careers became a reality check. Dominique Wilkins quickly found out that athleticism only went so far when Bird started hitting shots while talking to him the whole time. Charles Barkley got hit with a game winner in a moment where Bird showed how calm and confident he could be in pressure situations. John Stockton watched him casually drop 40 without breaking his stride. Clyde Drexler came in with confidence, only to see Bird score 10 straight on him, while telling him he couldn't stop it. Eddie Johnson hadn't even touched the ball yet when Bird started getting in his head. And young guys like Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton saw firsthand how Bird didn't need flash, he just needed space, timing, and a bit of trash talk. In the end, Bird didn't try to embarrass these young players, he just played his game. And that was more than enough to leave a mark. For them, it wasn't just about losing a play or a game, it was about realizing how high the standard really was.